Dennis DeVerne is with us. His new book, Goodbye Natalie, Goodbye Splendor. Dennis, what happened that night? Was there an argument on the yacht?
Yes, that night there was an argument that actually started the day before, but that particular night in the afternoon, Christopher Walken and Natalie, they had gone ashore to a restaurant, which was the only restaurant on that part of the island. And the tension was building throughout the whole weekend of Robert Wagner being jealous of Christopher Walken. And that afternoon, Robert Wagner and myself, we joined Christopher and Natalie at the restaurant for dinner. And we had dinner, we had drinks. Robert Wagner said it was time to return to the boat. Natalie, we all kind of wanted to stay a little longer, but RJ said, no, we're going to go back to the boat. So we all went back to the boat. I tied the dinghy up on the swim platform with a bow line and a stern line. And we all went inside the boat and opened a bottle of wine, put the kettle on for some tea, because Natalie liked to have tea before she went to bed. And the jealousy was just getting so tense that Robert Wagner had picked up the bottle of wine and smashed it right in front of Natalie and Christopher on the coffee table. And at that moment, Christopher stood up and he went directly to his stateroom. And that was the last I've seen of him for that whole night. At that point, Natalie was devastated, and she went into her stateroom, and Robert Wagner had followed. And they were arguing in the stateroom.
That night, Robert Wagner, Natalie Wood, ferocious fight going on. You turned up your music so they would not think in your mind that you were eavesdropping or trying to hear them, but you did hear them.
Yeah, yes, I did. And I kept the music going, but I could still hear the arguing. And then the arguing went on to the aft deck, and moments later, everything became silent. So I thought that maybe they were making up and maybe they were going to go to bed and that was going to be the end of it. So I waited for a little while and I still had the music on, and I decided, well, I'm going to go down below and I'm going to go to the F deck and just see if everything's okay. Well, Robert Wagner was standing there, leaning his back against the back of the boat, facing the boat, and he said that Natalie was missing and would I go search the boat. So I immediately went to my stateroom, thinking that maybe she went to my stateroom because she felt maybe that she was safe there, because the night before, Natalie and I had gone ashore and we stayed at a hotel because there was arguing the day before as well. So I came back and I told Robert Wagner that Natalie was nowhere on the boat. I looked in Christopher's stateroom, I looked in the other empty stateroom, and she wasn't there. So I said to Robert Wagner, he said to me, he said, the dinghy is gone too. Well, I just knew that Natalie was so deathly afraid of the water and not really capable of taking that boat by herself. But he said the boat was gone and she was gone. So I thought, well, let's turn on the searchlight and let's just see if we can see her. So after that, it was like he said no.
Now, you said that evening there had been a heated argument between Wood and her husband, Robert Wagner, that you came above the aft, and you observed Wagner leaned back against the wall, and he at that time said Natalie Wood was gone. You searched everywhere. You couldn't find her. Why did you believe that she may be in the state cabin? Why did you think that she would go there?
Well, I thought that maybe she would go into my stateroom because the night before, Robert Wagner wanted to make the decision to move the boat at night, which Natalie did not want to do. The weather was raining, cold, windy, and not a very good idea. Natalie refused and decided that she wanted to go ashore. So that night before, I had taken Natalie ashore in Avalon, and we stayed at a hotel for that night. And we returned to the boat the next day, hoping that things would be a little smoother. So Natalie and I, we returned back to the boat, and she made a nice breakfast, and then we moved the boat to the other part of the island where there was just only one restaurant. And
Why
that is when
did Robert Wagner want to move the boat, Dennis?
I can't answer that. I don't know why, because it wasn't a very, very good idea. Maybe he was angry and he wasn't sure what quite to do or what. I'm not sure, but it was definitely not the thing to do.
Dennis, you stated that an argument had been brewing for days. What was the argument about?
Well, it wasn't so much verbal, but it was just the tension that was going on the whole time between Robert Wagner, Natalie, and Christopher. It was just getting to a boiling point.
That evening, after you searched the boat, you could not find Natalie Wood. What happened next?
Well, I went back to Robert Wagner and said she was nowhere on the boat. And I said, let's turn on the searchlight. We had a very big searchlight. And I said, let's turn on the searchlight to see if we could see her. And he says, we're not going to do that. He said, no. And I said, well, let's call the restaurant. He said, we're not going to do that either. So we stood there, and I was just devastated. I think I was actually in shock. And Robert Wagner poured me a drink, and it was like it was like torture that was going on. And after a couple hours, I said, we have to call the restaurant. So we called the restaurant, and right after that, the people from the restaurant came out to the boat, and they said that we should call the Coast Guard. We need to call the Coast Guard. So the Coast Guard was contacted, and they were going to start doing their search. And by now, it's getting daylight, and they came back to the boat, and they say they found Natalie Wood's body floating, and the dinghy was somewhat nearby her.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wagner, the rumor's true? She could have been alive if you would have called earlier. You think Natalie Woods would have been alive if you would have called earlier? So is the case reopened now? Natalie Woods?
Natalie Wood.
Yes,
You married Natalie Wood twice.
I did.
Why did we do that?
I don't know, but isn't it great?
It is, when you look back. I have to ask, so I'll let it pass, but I must ask you. They reopened the Natalie Wood thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a comment on that?
No, I never did.
You wouldn't cooperate with the... Where?
Well, I had already had cooperated with them, you know.
Yeah, you wrote it in your book.
Yeah, but there wasn't anything left to say, Larry. You know, when that accident happened, there were so many people on top of that. You know, at the time, you can't believe it. You know, but when that all came up again, it was so
Were you shocked that the captain said that?
Well, it was rather transparent, you know. It was rather transparent. I hadn't seen him for a long time, and, you know, he wasn't the captain of the boat, you know.
That was the bleakest period of the life, right?
Yes,
That had to be.
Absolutely.
How did you
Absolutely.
overcome it?
Well, I don't think you ever overcome it. And why should you?
Yeah.
Why should you?
It happened.
You know? But I had a great deal of support and help. I had my 3 daughters who were right by my side. And later on, I was so fortunate because Jill St. John
The best.
came into my life. Yeah, I know you love her.
I love her.
She came into my life, and she had her hand under my arm, you know, and through a lot of help from a lot of friends and a lot of people, it all came.
Joining me right now and taking your calls is a Hollywood legend. Lana Wood is with us. She is Natalie's sister. Miss Wood, thank you so much for being with us. You are an icon to so many. Most people familiar with you in your own right from all of your starring roles in movies. A lot of people don't even realize you are Natalie's sister. You refer to her husband, Robert Wagner, as RJ. What is your understanding, Miss Wood, of what happened on Natalie's yacht that night?
Well, I'll backtrack a little bit. When all this first occurred, no one had said anything to me. I heard the news second, third hand through a friend of mine who called me on the phone, and then on the news on television. And the only thing that RJ ever said to me was, it was an accident, you've got to believe me, and that was it. I know that I really take a great deal of responsibility for not having pushed more, done more, but I was in such shock and denial and confused, and as I still am to this day, actually. It was then, years later, Dennis DeVerne started calling me late in the evening, late at night, Florida time, crying, speaking sometimes incoherently, running words together that didn't always make sentences. Very, very tormented. I mean, the man was absolutely tormented, and started telling me what really happened. I think he was upset to such a degree that he tried to find me at a telecommunications company where I was working at the time, and he told the same things to the receptionist because I wasn't in at the time. He felt horribly guilty. He blamed himself for not being stronger, faster, more insistent. What I gleaned from all of his stories to me was that the entire weekend was quite tumultuous, very, very volatile. A lot of drinking going on, which is not a surprise. That's what people back then did. There weren't so much the drugs. It was, you drank. There was a fight. RJ broke a bottle. The fight continued. Natalie left the room, and I guess, started to prepare herself to go to bed, and evidently they were not quite finished with the fight, and RJ followed. Dennis told me that he heard bad physical noises, was his verbiage, coming from the stateroom. He then went to the stateroom and knocked on the door, and he said RJ answered, just opened the door a bit and looked very, very distraught, and, said basically for Dennis to go away. And Dennis then walked through the salon, turned up the music so that nobody else would hear, and then began to make his way towards the back of the boat where Natalie and RJ's stateroom is. as he got to the back of the boat, the doors were open from the stateroom, and RJ was standing alone in the back, and said to Dennis that she was gone.
You told me that you heard about Natalie's death and disappearance on TV. Why didn't her husband call you?
As soon as you find out, would you let me know? Who knows?
Okay.
The whole thing was just, you know, a nightmare, a living nightmare. I don't know.
You know, you also stated, Miss Wood, everyone with us is a movie legend in her own right, Lana Wood. You also mentioned as part of your story all of his stories, quote, all of his stories. What did you mean by that? Did his story change?
Dennis's, you mean?
Robert Wagner.
Oh, Robert Wagner. Yes, his story changed. I don't understand why, you know, people are choosing to pick at Dennis, who is finally standing up and got the courage to say all this, when RJ's stories have changed constantly from his interviews with the detective that came on board the Splendor. That was one story that Dennis told me when he got Chris and him together, that everybody was to tell the same story, and that was the story that was fabricated. And then all of a sudden, many, many years later, when RJ decided to write a book, all of a sudden he did smash the wine bottle, whereas before he told, and this is a quote, he told the detective that it was probably broken due to high seas, and, you know, it rolled off. Then there was the ridiculous, a bottle of wine was left in the dinghy, and that's what she went after. I mean, why does everyone choose to take Dennis to task? Do we only believe people that are charismatic and big celebrities, and the rest of us is just kind of too bad, huh? I mean, it hurts me. It hurts me that these stories are being told. I can't bear it. For Natalie's sake. Obviously, it doesn't hurt me personally. It hurts my heart, but I'm beside myself, as I'm sure you can understand.
What do you want to see happen in the case?
I just want the truth for once and for all. I mean, I just find this whole thing a living nightmare. He said, she said, people getting on sides. There are no sides. There's the truth and there's lies. You know, that it's as simple as that. No one is trying to profit, benefit. It's just, it was time for everybody to tell the truth. Nobody wanted to listen to Dennis before. Dennis was afraid to say anything. And I hate to tell you all this, but, you know, why didn't he object to the boat being moved? Because it's RJ's, and because RJ is RJ. And if he says, I want to move the boat, you go, oh, gee, that's really not a good idea. But, oh, okay, you know, there again, you forget who people are dealing with. They're dealing with a charismatic, you know, movie star, television star. You know, it isn't, oh, dear. Well, I don't know. There's so much for me to say. What do I want? I want to hear the truth. That's what I want. I want the detectives that are on this case, the homicide, to be able to do their jobs. They're not going to take sides. They're going to get to the bottom of this. And I want them to be allowed to do so. What I would dearly love is if RJ just, you know, said, hey, I will hold a press conference and I'm gonna say what happened, or call me and tell me. I don't know, Nancy. I'm such a mess over all this. It's terrible.
Just a reminder, all parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
RJ, I just wanted to ask you one thing. I'm really sorry. I know the pain that you're going through and that I'm going through. You know, I know this has not been any easier for you. I know that. But everybody is going to drive me absolutely insane.
beg your pardon? Who's that?
until everybody knows. You know, why won't you speak to the detectives? They're super guys. Clear
Why would
yourself if you can.
Why would you even bring up anything like that?
Because
Do you
I'm
realize what
hounded
you've
with
done?
it every single
Do
day.
you realize what you've done?
No, what have I done?
Do you know we have a family? Do you know what you've done to the
Yes.
family?
Yes, I know. I'm not a part of it, thank you. But yes, we have a family.
I'm amazed that you'd even talk to me.
Why wouldn't I talk to you? I've known you since I was a child.
No, I've known you since you were a child.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
What,
Who's he
can they
for
go
her?
away? I don't know. The
Yeah.
young man.
Anyway, I have talked to everybody. What do you
I don't know,
accused
Kevin
me
and
of-
Ralph, I don't accuse you of anything.
You've accused me of murdering her, of taking all these positions. It's incredible. I can't believe that you'd do something like that. I just can't believe it.
But RJ, you've changed your story.
I haven't changed
You've never
anything.
said anything to me.
I
You
have never changed anything.
You never for 1 minute stopped and said, "This is what happened." I know it's going to
course I
hurt
did.
me. Not to me.
Of course
Not
I've,
to me. You
of course I
didn't.
have stopped and said what happened.
No, RJ, you
There
really
was
didn't.
everybody
You
was on
really
top of
didn't.
that. Look at all these people around there. They're
Oh,
all from you.
Jesus Christ, no.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Oh,
Let's play that again one more time. Maybe you need to raise the volume.
RJ, I just wanted to ask you one thing. I'm really sorry. I know the pain that you're going through and that I'm going through. You know, I know this has not been any easier for you. I know that. But everybody is going to drive me absolutely insane
I beg your pardon? Who's that?
until everybody knows. You know, why won't you speak to the detectives? They're super guys. Clear
Why would
yourself if you can.
Why would you even bring up anything like that?
Because
You
I'm
realize what
hounded
you've
with
done?
it every single
Do
day.
you realize what you've done?
No, what have I done?
Do you know we have a family? Do you know what you've done to the
Yes.
family?
Yes, I know. I'm not a part of it, thank you. But yes, we have a family.
I'm amazed that you'd even talk to me.
Why wouldn't I talk to you? I've known you since I was a child.
No, I've known you since you were a child.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
What,
Who's he
can they
for
go
her?
away? I don't know. The
Yeah.
young man.
Anyway, I have talked to everybody. What do you
I don't know,
accused
Kevin
me
and
of-
Ralph, I don't accuse you of anything.
You've accused me of murdering her, of taking all these positions. It's incredible. I can't believe that you'd do something like that. I just can't believe it.
But RJ, you've changed your story.
I haven't changed
You've never
anything.
said anything to me.
I
You
have never changed anything.
You never for 1 minute stopped and said, "This is what happened." I know it's going to
course I
hurt
did.
me. Not to me.
Of course
Not
I've,
to me. You
of course I
didn't.
have stopped and said what happened.
No, RJ, you
There
really
was
didn't.
everybody
You
was on
really
top of
didn't.
that. Look at all these people around there. They're
Oh,
all from you.
Jesus Christ, no.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Oh.
40 years after Hollywood actress Natalie Wood died in a mysterious manner on a yacht, her sister Lana Wood says that she thinks she knows what happened. In a moment, you're going to hear from Lana herself. But first, we want to give you a little bit of background about Natalie Wood and her story. Started acting young. Who can forget her in that role playing the precocious Santa Claus skeptic in Miracle on 34th Street? She was just 8 years old at the time. She went on to act in at least 28 movies, including West Side Story, where she played the leading female role of Maria. She was glamorous and a part of Hollywood and the scene for years, winning 4 Golden Globes, also 3 Oscars. But Natalie Wood's life ended at the age of 45, and the circumstances of her death still a mystery 4 decades later. Woods died during a boat outing with her husband, Robert Wagner, and at the time, investigators said that she drowned. But there has always been questions about this case, and in 2011, it was reopened. And in 2018, Robert Wagner was named a person of interest. yet he has never been charged. Natalie Wood, her sister, Lana Wood, has written a book titled Little Sister, and in it she says and alleges Wagner murdered her sister in a drunken rage, and also claims that her sister was sexually assaulted by the late actor Kirk Douglas. Lana Wood joins me now live tonight with more on this case and the ongoing investigation. Lana, first of all, my heart breaks for your family and what you all have gone through. And even after all of these years, I'm so sorry for your loss and what happened to your sister.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I know it's difficult to talk about, but you lay forth a lot in your book. And let's start with the blame you placed on Robert Wagner, her husband, for her death. Do you have any evidence to back up that claim? What led you to that place?
Yes, I do. I lay out the timeline based upon the detective's report, the new coroner's report, not the old detectives that did speak to RJ, the new detectives when the case was reopened. The coroner's report, eyewitness and ear witness, and everything that the detectives have told me.
What do you believe happened that night?
What happened is exactly what I've been told, and according to the detectives, it's rather clear cut if you do not pay attention to rumors and supposed and all of that that's been going on for far too long. Just follow the timeline. Natalie and RJ were fighting bitterly the entire trip to Catalina. The first issue was that he wanted to move the boat very late at night in nasty weather over to the isthmus, and Natalie was against that, as it just worried her that they were going to go anywhere and move the boat at that hour of the night. So that was an issue. Natalie ended up leaving the Splendor with the captain, Dennis DeVerne. They checked into a hotel on the island, and Natalie spent the night there. In the morning, she attempted to get a seaplane to take her home, and she was not able to do so. And she sort of, decided that she would just go back to the Splendor and see if she couldn't make things right or soften things. They spent most of the day on the Splendor. Natalie and Christopher Walken then left to go to the local restaurant bar to have a few drinks, leaving a note for RJ. RJ was napping. Then RJ and Dennis DeVerne took the little dinghy and went to the island to join. Everybody got together for dinner. It evidently, from several eyewitnesses, was not a terrifically happy dinner. Then RJ insisted that they go back to the boat, which Natalie didn't want to do and Christopher didn't want to do, but he insisted, so off they went. After they got on board, it seems that RJ became very angry and picked up a wine bottle, smashed it on the coffee table, and threatened Christopher with the wine bottle. At that point, Natalie was furious and had had enough of all of these ridiculous arguments. And she left the salon, went to her stateroom, washed up, put on a long flannel nightgown and some wool socks, took a sleeping pill, and went to bed. RJ shortly after that followed. And according to Dennis, the argument continued, and very loudly this time, to the point where he was getting a little distressed, Dennis, and he turned up the radio. He then said that it sounded like furniture was being thrown in the stateroom. So he went up to the door and knocked and said, is everything all right? Is there anything? And RJ opened the door a little bit and said, I'm taking care of this, stay out of it.
Right.
shut the door. Then Dennis went outside again, and he waited there listening to the argument. He then noticed that Natalie and RJ had come out to the back of the boat. He heard the same thing going on and became very concerned because he felt that it had elevated. So he started around the boat to go to the back. When he got to the back of the boat, there was only RJ there. And RJ said to him, Natalie's missing. And he said, missing? And RJ said, yeah, look around the boat and see if yet. Dennis checked every single room of the boat. It's not a huge boat. And came back and said, she's not there. And RJ said, well, the dinghy is missing too. Dennis then said, I should turn on the searchlight. And RJ said, direct quote, no, we're not going to do that. And then Dennis said, well, should I call, Baywatch? And Dennis said, RJ said, no, we're not going to do that either. So then Dennis sort of felt stuck and very upset, didn't know what to make of anything. And he and RJ continued drinking.
Let me talk to you about Robert Wagner. He's 91 years old.
Yes.
He was named a person of interest in Natalie's death, but he was never charged. When was the last time you spoke to him, and is he reacting to the story and accounts that you've put forth tonight and in the book?
No, he is not. The last time I spoke to him was about 20 years ago. Maybe more. I don't really know. RJ, the detectives came to my home, stated that they have enough to charge him with Natalie's killing.
Do you expect that he will be charged and that you'll get the answers that you want?
The district attorney turned them down, saying there was no smoking gun, even though they had all of this other evidence. They didn't. Their boss held a press conference, Lieutenant John Carina. And in the press, the last thing he said to them, he said, RJ is now a person of interest. The case was reopened, as they know. But he said, all we know for sure is that there were two people on the back of the boat, and then there was one.